So welcome, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking. I am Dale Barzi. As always, if you like what you see and hear, give us a like, give us a subscribe. So today we have with us Dr. Ruth Oshikanlu, MBE. And Dr. Oshikanlu is a multiple award-winning nurse, midwife, and health visitor in the United Kingdom. And she has greater than 26 years experience. She's also a pregnancy mindset expert who supports women and their partners who have had assisted conception or previous pregnancy loss to enjoy their current pregnancy without fear. She's also an author. She's the author of Tune Into Your Body, because babies don't come with an instruction manual. She also wrote a chapter called Pace Yourself and Enjoy Parenting in the book, Not Another Parenting Book. She's a speaker, she's a mentor, and a coach. She's a Queen's Nurse, a Winston Churchill Fellow, a Fellow of the Institute of Health Visiting. She's a recipient of several national, healthcare, and business awards. She's a regular columnist and has published several feature articles in numerous nursing and healthcare journals. She's appointed a member of the Order of the British Empire in the 2019 Honours List for being an ambassador for the health visiting profession and for services to community nursing, children, and families. Also in 2019, she received an honorary doctorate from the South London Bank University. She's the host of Nurses and Midwives Talk, which she launched in 2020 to showcase the contributions of nurses and midwives. She's a solo mama to a teenage son, and she loves dancing, traveling, and meeting people. Welcome, Dr. Oshikanlu.
Oh, it's a great pleasure.
I
It's a
have been
great pleasure.
so looking forward to speaking to you.
So have I. I'm glad we're making it happen now.
I am so glad. So my first question always is, why are you a nurse?
Oh, because I'm a rebel. I'm a rebel. I grew up I grew up in Nigeria, so I've got Nigerian parents, and I don't know how much people know about Nigerian parents, but they're very creative. In Nigeria, we don't have an NHS system, where you get free healthcare. So often people would create their own. And one of the ways they do so is by pushing their first child to become a doctor, a medical doctor. So that way you get free healthcare for life. So
Okay.
that was me, a young girl. My dad saw I was bright. And my dad was a different man, mainly because he was the first feminist I know.
Okay.
Often in Nigeria, because it's patriarchal, but it was often the boys that were
Mm-hmm.
invested in, especially when it comes to education. But thankfully, my father thought, bright girl, gonna push her down, the medicine route, and show that I'm different. I value and treasure
Okay.
my beautiful daughter. And so that was what I thought out from a very young age. It was imbibed in me. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a doctor. And once you hear it long enough, you believe you're going to be a doctor.
Yes.
And then I got to my mid teens, and I also had an uncle who was a doctor, and all he seemed to do was moan about his exams that he was doing. Because again,
Okay.
is part one, part two. I'm like, I don't want to
Yeah.
be studying. I want to be miserable the rest of my life. I don't know if I want to be a doctor. And then I told my dad, and normally they'll call a family meeting. Please talk some sense into this girl's head because
Yeah.
all my investment, I gave her the best education money could buy, and she's not going to be a doctor. Please
Yeah.
talk some sense into
Talk to
her.
her.
Anyway, then I told my dad, I don't want to be a doctor. But I now came to the UK when I was 17. And I knew I was not going to study medicine. But I thought, okay, dad, look, I'll study medicine in the UK. So when I actually looked into studying medicine in the UK because I had not been in the country 3 years. I would have had to pay um overseas student fees, which was
Yeah.
going to be expensive, especially if I was going to be studying for 6 to 7 years.
Hmm.
So I told Dad, "Oh, actually, I could be a nurse, and they'll pay me because
Hmm.
in the UK at the time, you got a bursary, so you didn't, I said, Dad,
Exactly.
I could get paid to be a nurse, and they'll pay me,
Hmm.
and then I could get credits, and then using
And then
that
you
as a
can.
launch. But I tell you, from the minute I started, I knew I wasn't going to do medicine. But I didn't tell him that. So he was the one that inspired me to be a nurse, being a rebel, not wanting to do things my own way. But
Uh-huh.
it was also easier to be a nurse at the time. And with the talent, with the knowledge I had, honestly, I just sailed through nursing school. And that's where the journey started.
Okay, okay. And so I see that you have done many things. I also became a nurse in England. And so I know that the transition usually is you become a general nurse, then you either transition and get, become a midwife as well, or you become a mental nurse or whatever. You tend to add a few more things to, but you have added quite a few. You're a midwife, you're a health visitor. So how did you go through to that path?
Okay. It's all a case of falling into things. When I started out, I've always wanted to be purposeful. I'm very driven by a big why. So my work is always to do the why. Once I focus on why am I doing what I'm doing, then the how just it gets
Comes in.
easier.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I had lost two cousins quite young to sickle cell disease. So when
Oh,
I started out, I started in hematology
mm-hmm.
because I wasn't still sure where I wanted to specialize, but I wanted to ensure that I enjoyed what I did. So when I qualified, I remember this is when the clinical practice facilitator role was developed. And this lady goes, "Oh, Ruth, you need to choose your specialist area." I said, I don't have one, I have three. And she goes, so anyway, I said, "Oh, if I had my wish, it would be lovely to have a taste of all three specialist areas that I really like, and then I can decide."
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, within a few months, she goes, "Ruth, your wishes have come true." So they set up a rotational program for newly qualified um, nurses, and at the end of it, you would have got an E grade. So it was an E grade development program. So I started off in hematology for 4 months. Then I rotated to A&E, which was my other choice. You couldn't rotate to ICU at the time, so I rotated to HDU. So I think I did hematology, hemato-oncology, then HDU, then I did A&E. So towards the end of my rotation of hematology, I kind of knew I was not going to do that because during my stint there, we lost about three clients who had died in
Yeah.
succession because it's a chronic lifelong condition. They
Yes.
bond with each other. When one dies, it has an impact on the other patients. And I just thought, you know what, I can't do this. It's too hard. I can't be bonding with people, getting to know them, and they just,
Yeah.
die one after the other.
Yeah.
And we weren't doing much to prevent in on the
Yeah.
unit. It was more, supporting them
Yes. Yeah.
to through their disease. Um, and then I went to HDU. I enjoyed that, but it was in A&E. My first week in A&E, a woman who was visiting from the States for 5 days in her 50s was dumped in A&E by a black taxi driver. And because her waters had broken, and this one was like, "But I'm not pregnant, I'm not pregnant. How come my waters?" Anyway, she had her baby. And I was so fascinated by the whole experience. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And she wouldn't even cuddle her baby because she was in denial. Oh, she was like, "How can I tell my husband that 5 days in the UK, I'm coming back home with a baby when I'm not pregnant?" Her youngest child at the time was 27. So
Oh.
if she thought she was going through the menopause, she didn't
Oh.
realize she was pregnant. And so she was, in fact, they had to get the psychs involved
Yes,
because
I can
like
imagine.
she was in total denial. She wouldn't hold the baby, But I was like, "Wow, you would hold the baby." I hugged the baby, cuddled the baby, ran to labor ward, got, some clothes, some nappies, because the baby had nothing. She'd had no antenatal care. And I was so fascinated with by the whole experience. I thought, you know what? I'm looking for something happy. I could do this all my life. Within, lo and behold, within a few months, I had started my midwifery program and really enjoyed it. So I went into midwifery, enjoyed it. I loved my training. At the time, there was a document called Changing Childbirth that had just come out that was telling us we need what women want: choice, continuity, control. So as soon as I qualified, I did a stint on labor ward just to skill up, and then I fled into the community. I'm a free spirit. I love autonomy. I love focus on those I serve. I love to serve with them. So I
Yeah.
really did enjoy being a community midwife, a one-to-one midwife
Yes.
for quite a while. And it was then we moved from testing HIV, we had introduced HIV testing in pregnancy, and we moved from opt in to opt out. So that because when we were opting, when we were telling people, oh, you could have one, many, the uptake was lower. But the minute we said, look, everyone gets it unless they say no, then the uptake increased.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
Hmm.
it improved, and then we started, many more women were being diagnosed in pregnancy. But I noticed the pattern that most of the women that were being diagnosed in pregnancy were from sub-Saharan African countries. So again, I skilled up. I did the HIV um, course, EMB 934, I think it was called at the time. And within a short space of time, I applied for an HIV specialist role. And that's what I did, supporting women. But I also had an idea of going to give back to home, because when we saw the state of affairs, the healthcare in many African countries, not good enough. So I always wanted to go back. So I did the diploma in tropical nursing because a lot of nurses, that was one of the requirements to work for an NGO.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. Halfway through the course, which I really enjoyed, as a nurse, as a midwife, we deal with body fluids, poo and feces and urine is not a big deal. I was just every time we had to, because it involved a lot of microscopic work, I'll be retching. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Anyway, I was pregnant. So that's how I never got to work for an NGO. I did finish the course because I said, whatever happens, finish the course, finish the course.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. But halfway through my pregnancy, just for a routine scan, I ended up being hospitalized for the rest of it because my baby was on his way out. In hindsight, it was stress. The big thing, when one realizes, oh, I'm pregnant, but my life is not, I'm not quite ready
I'm
for a
not ready for
child.
this. Yes.
I'm working shifts. I'm living in a place that's not conducive for children, So I was buying a place. I was, shouting on the builders, look, I've got so many months for this place to be ready. I was finishing my course. Lots of stressful things I was doing. So in hindsight, no wonder my son wanted to come out to me. But it was also when I got that time, 159 days in hospital, I also fell in love with what I'm doing. So you said I'm a pregnancy mindset expert. Because although I knew what was happening to me as a midwife, I didn't know how to handle it
Aha.
emotionally and mentally. The fact that I've given people choice, continuity, control. I'm not getting choice, continuity, control. I am not even in control of this situation. And every hour I spent in hospital, Big Ben. So this is in St. Thomas's Hospital.
Okay.
Big Ben. I was over beautiful view. Did I enjoy the view? Not really, because Big Ben reminded me every single hour I was spending on this hospital bed. Oh, it would chime. Oh, I'm still stuck here. Oh, I'm still stuck here. But in the end, I had to have a reframe that Ruth, look, it looks like you're going to be here a long time.
Yeah.
How can you ensure what you're going through, you manage it? You're focusing on things you can't control. You need to focus on the things you can
That you
control.
can.
Your thought processes, your emotions, your feelings, your actions, your attitude. And it was only then I had to learn to reframe. And by the time I left, 159 days after, Big Ben was my friend. Because every time it chimed, I was grateful. I'm still pregnant. And
Hmm.
it took a few of other women on the ward to lose their babies for me to actually realize, actually, it's a blessing
That's
to be on bed rest and to
mhm.
still be on to still be pregnant. So I took a year out after I had my son, and that was the first time I really experienced what health visitors do, and I thought, I could be
I
one.
could do this.
You know, so I took a year out, enjoyed it, and then I just went from there straight into my health visiting training.
Mhm.
I was so privileged at the time. There was a new program, the a Family Nurse Partnership for the Department of Health, supporting pregnant teenagers and teenage parents. And so I got the role, and I learned so much about what happens and the importance of the early years, that foundation of life, pregnancy in the first 2 years of life, and outcomes later in life. And so I did that for a few years. And unfortunately, I did have problems with my manager at the time, with some bullying and harassment. And I thought, you know
Oh,
what? With
don't do this.
all with all I have learned, you know what? Stuff your job. That's how I felt. Don't
Yes.
get me wrong, I was not a saint, because she wasn't the best manager, but I also gave her a run, for because it's like I know what good looks like, and you are so not it, and I'm gonna make your life miserable. And yes, I did, and I remember phrases like, you know what? I'm sorry that my competence makes you feel incompetent. I'm not going to dim my light because it's so bright. So I just realized she was so autocratic, which was not my style. I loved autonomy. I loved respect and mutual respect. I didn't get it. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to show you. I'm going to be a teenager, you know. And in the end, I realized it wasn't sustainable and I left. And I've not worked with the NHS since then, um, because I love all my roles. I love being a nurse. I love being a midwife. I love being a health visitor. And I could not find that role that would allow me to be all three,
All
but
three.
also still be client facing. Because I do lots of strategic roles, but I still love the client facing. So I did some agency work, and I've done that on and off over the years, so that I still retain my practice. It keeps me grounded. It shapes the decisions I make when I'm working on policy to ensure the policy is fit for purpose. Uh, it also has steered the courses I have undertaken. So I call myself a nurse entrepreneur, and 2 days a week, a pregnancy mindset expert. So that's how I get to be with women,
Yeah.
when uh, they find pregnancy challenging, like I did. I did
Yes.
my master's in parental fetal attachment because I
Okay.
wanted some evidence. All the talking I did, the naming my son, forming a relationship with him in utero. Is there any evidence behind it? And lo and behold, there was. So I said, this is what I'm looking for. Did my master's. It was around that time I wrote my book. So I now support women who've had assisted conception or previous pregnancy loss, those who are most fearful that they're going to lose their baby,
Yeah.
and support them through, using their mind, developing their mindset. It takes the right kind of mindset to remain pregnant
Yes.
and to continue because I had to adopt that mindset, focus, but strategies to help them, but also from that relationship with the unborn baby, reduce stress, communicate with their partners. So because again, or everyone involved in making this baby, working together with
Child.
baby inside you
Yes.
to get to achieve the best outcome. So I love doing that. It just makes me realize how I've grown over the years. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do that.
So tell us, for those of us who are not in the United Kingdom and may not know, what does a health visitor do?
Oh, I love that question. A health visitor supports families, children and families. Often we would, and it's a universal service, so everybody
Mhm.
gets it. That's what I love about health visiting. So we often would introduce ourselves in pregnancy and offer everyone a contact. Sometimes that's face to face, sometimes that's over the telephone, especially during the pandemic. And then we'll be, because we know that if we're going to be able to have any influence on anybody, a trusting relationship is key. So we start building that relationship in pregnancy. If there are any unmet needs in pregnancy, we will visit more often. So there's this. So we do a a very thought comprehensive assessment with the client. If there's any issues like domestic abuse, substance misuse, any vulnerability, the mental health problems, emotional health problems, we would ensure there's a package of care starting even in pregnancy. And then we would see again on day 10 to 14, just around the time the midwife's finishing, we
Hmm.
tend to take over and work with the family right through until the young child um, starts school. So our role is there promoting health, supporting the transition to parenting, ensure that the child is developing well. So a big part of our role is
Yes.
assessing child development, signposting to resources, community, because if there's anything we've learned the last year is the importance of having that village around you.
Yes. Yes.
So we are part of the village around children and families, but also we signpost to the wider village so that parents know how to access help and access help early. And so the families can thrive, children can thrive, reach their full potential, give them the best start in life so they continue throughout life. So that's what health sisters do.
Yes, so that you start early promoting a very having people think of them as a whole person, think of themselves
Mhm.
globally. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you are a Queen's nurse. What is that?
Okay. Oh, another role I love. So there's an organization called the Queen's Nursing Institute, and what they do is promote community nursing, which I love. So, because actually, most of the nursing care in the UK is delivered outside hospitals.
Hmm.
So, in people's homes, I'm talking to you as a health visitor. We have community psychiatric nurses that keep people well at home. We have occupational health nurses that keep people well at work. We have community children's nurses. We have district nurses. So we have general practice nurses that work with GPs. So the organization celebrates, they set the standards for community nursing, maintain the standards of excellence. We share what we do. So it's a community of like minded individuals, but also getting professional support um, to develop in our careers. So it's a process of application. If you think you're excellent in the community, then the title gets awarded. So you can use the QN title, and
Okay.
they give a lot of support and development. And there's also community of like-minded individuals that continue to celebrate what we do outside the care given outside hospitals. I love being a Queen's nurse and what the Queen's Nursing Institute does to
Hmm.
support nursing outside hospitals.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Because it's very it's comforting to know that with although you're not within the confines of an institution, you have support. You have viable support. So that's really great.
It's so important.
Yes.
We said families should tap into the village around them, and then we as professionals, where's your professional village? Who's supporting you?
Yes,
Because the
indeed.
quality of the care you give depends on that. So you have a challenge, you run to your village, help, I
Help.
need help. What would you do in a scenario like this? Who has helped you? And this is how you never alone. So that
Exactly.
the professional isolation is reduced, and you get support.
That is really awesome, because I think that's probably one of the reasons that many people don't step outside of this, um, four walls institution kind of thing. So
Totally.
so since so much of your work is in the community, I have to ask, how has this current pandemic affected you?
Oh, it's been hard. So I think before we started recording, I went back to support my colleagues in the community at the start of the pandemic. And within 2 weeks, I came down with COVID, and that was hard. I was very unwell for 6 weeks because we didn't know what we were walking into. We didn't even have PPE, personal protective equipment, because
Yeah.
at the time we didn't know as much as we know now. And we thought we were fine in the community. So it has affected so many communities, not just health visiting, but we've also been very responsive. So when we realized, okay, it's not as safe as we think it is, a lot of our services became virtual,
Yeah.
um, so that people still had the support. And then the vulnerable families, based on a very thorough and comprehensive risk assessment, a lot of them will be invited for one-to-one appointments in a clinic setting where we knew was safer rather than the midwife and the health visitor
Uh-huh.
going into
Mhm.
the home. But it's been challenging for all of us. I also, when I got better, I decided to, because in the UK, to create a service for those I support as a pregnancy mindset expert, because the fertility clinics were not seen
We're
as
not.
an essential service. And so a lot of the fertility clinics closed. A lot of the staff were furloughed, so they had to work from home. And then there was this gap. If I, being a professional, I'm very anxious, what's happening to those we
Yes.
serve?
Yes.
So straight away, I set up a service called Virtual Mamahood, supporting those who've conceived through IVF or and some pregnant women who were really anxious, so that there was that community. Look, and I'd just recovered from COVID, so
Yes.
I could say, look, I just had COVID. It was hard, but you know
Yeah.
what? I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Together, we're going to get through this. Um, the lockdown, yes, you're locked down, but you don't need to be alone, despite the fact we're isolating.
Yes.
So, and then it was so lovely to see, so many women had a community of women who were going through and journeying with them and that support. But then if there were any questions, I could also support them professionally
Yes.
with
Yes.
answers or signposting
Mm-hmm.
to further resources. So that was yeah, it's been lovely, and it's been a year of celebration because
Mm-hmm.
I have learned so much from each other, colleagues, the difference we make throughout the life course.
Yeah.
And it's been such an inspiration learning and working during a challenging global pandemic.
That really is one of the things. I don't even know if I want to call it a benefit, but it's a benefit really of this pandemic is that we have all grown in ways we didn't even know we could grow. And so it's been in that way, it's been great.
It's so true, and it's also the opportunities the pandemic has afforded us. Because I'm self-employed, I have a business, but the way I had to deliver my business, I had to quickly adapt it, and also foresee some of the problems that may emerge, especially for colleagues working during a challenging period, the emotional toll on us as clinicians, things that we see. In fact, when I was in the States during my Churchill Fellowship for 6 weeks last year, thankfully between January and March, before we were locked down, one of the things I learned about was vicarious trauma, the
Mhm.
trauma of us helping others, and
Yes.
how, because a lot of us have empathy, if we're not careful, we embrace their pain,
Hmm.
you know
That's right.
and some of the things we see, we cannot well, we can't unsee anything. You see, you can't unsee. You need to process your feelings around that. So based on that, knowing that one of the challenges will be the anxiety, the fear, what can I put in place to support my colleagues? So first started with a carers cafe. So every night it was just a daily chat. To be honest, it was also for selfish reasons. I was feeling as isolated. So by
Uh-huh.
making it
Yes.
by making it virtual, I could connect with somebody and go, how was your day today? How was it? What, I had COVID. It's hard. This is
Yeah.
what helped me. This is how I was able to maintain my, a positive mindset. Da, da, da. And it grew from that. And eventually, then once I was hearing what themes were emerging from the challenges that we're having, I created a program to support people to enable us to continue to thrive during times of uncertainty. So
Yes.
I've been doing some work with lots of uh, colleagues around that. It's commissioned by the employer, and then we do it virtually. I did manage some face to face ones when we the lockdown was
Before.
eased, but it's all gone back to virtual.
And so now we're both doing the same thing. You have, you're hosting Nurses and Midwives Talk, which I was grateful to bump into. So tell me how that came about, because you know I see your videos. It's so interesting, and your people you have chosen really great. So tell me about it.
Oh, oh God, I'll tell you all. Nurses and Midwives Talk actually comes from a sad place because I just recovered from COVID. And when I looked on the screen, it was lovely to be celebrated as nurses. I don't remember seeing any midwives celebrated on my TV, but a lot of the focus was ICU nursing, and it was very hospital centric. And I'm thinking, I didn't get COVID in a hospital. I got it in a community. Where are all the community nurses? Where are all the health systems, district nurses, people working in care homes, community psychiatric nurses? But instead, when people started dying, those that were dying looked like me. And I'm thinking, okay, most of these people that died, yes, some died in hospital, but a lot of them were those who worked in the
In the
community.
community.
I'm like, you know what, Ruth, if nobody celebrates you, celebrate yourself. And 2020 is the year of the nurse and the midwife.
Yes, indeed.
Another thing that was disappointing, I had so many events to speak at booked, and some
Yes.
got postponed, some got cancelled, some became virtual events. I was like, oh, what's happening? Okay, we can still celebrate. In fact, COVID has given us an opportunity to celebrate.
Yes, exactly it
So
did.
I sat down, wrote the questions I would love to ask anyone I speak with. Why invite, some of the questions you're asking me, what attracted you to the profession? Da, 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 da. How did you get to where you are? But how have you what have been some of your greatest achievements? Because that's another thing we don't
Yes.
shout about.
Yes.
Oh, I am just a nurse. You are so not just a nurse. You're so not just a midwife. This is the time to shine the spotlight on you, celebrate you, blow your trumpet. Because if you don't, I will blow it for you. Because this is our year. You need to shine. And so that was where Nurses and Midwives talk started. And by May 12, we were urged to make a video. I said, you know what? Let's dream big. You have to aim for way beyond the moon.
Yes,
Hopefully you
indeed.
hit the stars. And that's what happened. So I said, you know what? Times of adversity could also be times of celebration. I would
And,
love to
and
showcase
opportunity. Hmm.
I would love to showcase every single day one nurse or midwife or another member, any member of the nursing and midwifery family, one day at a time. And I just put that out there. And I started, I got 10 done within a couple of days, no, within about 3 days. So I started posting them on social media. And for me, one of my mantras is be seen, be heard, make an
Yeah.
impact. If there's anything last year, we were more visible, we were more seen. We weren't always heard, but we have to make sure we're heard. And we
Yes.
definitely made an impact. So we need to showcase that. And that's why there were video interviews. I would have
Yeah.
loved to do podcasts, but I said, nah, they'll hear us, but they wouldn't see
They
us.
won't
So
see us.
let's get everyone
Exactly.
on video. And so that's what I have done. And to date, it's been 295 stories I have done. I've aired about 292, and it's from all over the globe. In fact, when I think of some of the interviews that are lined up, it scares me because I'll be doing some interviews via an interpreter because we both
Yeah.
don't speak the
I
same
yes, I
language.
know.
So
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to that because again, in London, I work in London, very diverse. We have worked through
Yeah.
interpreters, so I'm looking forward to that.
More power to you. More power to you.
Well, I couldn't do what I do alone, as you could probably
Yes.
testify. If one builds a platform and you stand on the platform alone, it's not much of a
It's not much.
platform.
Hmm.
So I've just feel so in awe of all those that have contributed their stories, shared their stories. Some of the stories have been painful too.
Yes.
So my hope is to catalog all these stories so they're easily accessible. but also probably group them into the themes
And
that
yeah,
emerged.
yeah.
So, and I'm probably going to get a book out of it. I'm putting that out there so that I make sure it happens.
I've
Yeah.
already put that out there.
I always put things
just,
out
just put
there.
it out there. It'll happen. It'll happen. So, what do you do to relax? With all this stuff that you do, what do you
Mm.
do to relax?
Anyone that knows Ruth knows that she loves to work hard, but she loves to play hard. So relaxation for me is music and dancing, you know. And the beauty is now, even though we're in a lockdown, you don't have to be locked down. The amount of Zoom parties I've had, I probably go to two every week, and I'm dancing and singing and doing jumping about my Afro beats, I also do make sure sleep. Oh my goodness, I love to sleep
Hmm.
because when you sleep, your body gets to recharge itself. You get more creative. I
Yes.
love water.
Yeah.
One of the things I used to love traveling to, is one of the reasons I love traveling is just going to to the beach, endless bodies of water, endless
Hmm.
skies, that continuity. Just when there's no
Yes.
end to it, I miss that. We can't fly. I live in London. The nearest body of water you probably get, big water, is probably River Thames, and it's not so blue.
It's not so.
So, it's how we can get those. I love, I love my baths. I burn my candles. I pray, and family is a big thing for me
Yeah.
too. So I make sure. Look, we're all separated in our houses, but how can we connect? So every single day, part of my recharging my batteries, we have a group, WhatsApp. We have a family WhatsApp group, so we're always talking, making sure everyone's okay.
Everyone's yes.
We can see and hear each other, at least then there's less worry. Yeah, so I make sure I do recharge because when you look after yourself, one of the big things I teach is self-care.
Yep.
You look after yourself, you're better able
Yeah.
to support others.
Yeah.
So I make sure I practice what I preach. There's something I do called the self-care bingo. So I have it. Make sure I check as many as
Yeah.
possible,
Yeah.
and get creative. So I
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. It's very important. Extremely important. What would you say to someone who wants to be a nurse?
Oh my goodness. You want to make a difference. You want to try new experiences. You want to be with somebody when they're most vulnerable. It's a privilege to be a nurse. It's an honor to be a nurse. When I
Absolutely, I
look
agree.
back, I came into nursing when I was age 19, and nursing grew me in
Mm-hmm.
ways that I never thought I would grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's made me the woman I am today. It's made me the mother I am today. It's made me the professional I am today, because within weeks of starting my nurse training, I was having to deal with death, and I'm like, ooh, death, and actively supporting someone through the process of dying until they take their last breath. You're there with the family, supporting the family to make sense of what's happened. But I think what that also taught me as a nurse was to make every minute count, because there's
Mm-hmm.
no guarantees. We often assume death will come when we're old. It doesn't always
No.
come when we're old. It can come prematurely because life just throws us or deals us dreadful cards. And so make every minute count. Leave a legacy every single day. Um, but be open. I've also learned so much about people's cultures, and that there's more we have in common
Yeah.
than we have as differences. So you connect, you go to a family, we all want the same things for our children. It's just unfortunately we're not starting from the same place. How can we make that equitable for
Mm-hmm.
those who don't have? Because they want the best for their
They want
kids.
the best. Yeah.
So and it's about enabling, supporting people in our care, to achieve life dreams and life goals. And that's the power we have as nurses, or the person, as a midwife, who is going through pregnancy, which may be uncertain, there's no guarantees, labor and childbirth, and then that birthing of being a parent, because it's not just, I don't just want to focus on mums, because dads go
It's
through. So
dads too. Mm-hmm.
yes, and that's why
Dads and siblings and yeah.
So that journey, that transition into parenthood and the challenges it brings with it, the doubts, the comparisons that rob us of joy, that's what I do, supporting parents, that it's okay. You just do it your way. Put
Yeah.
your blinkers on, know what you want, put your blinkers on. Your child knows no different. You just work with your child. In fact, that's where tuning to your baby came from. You know
Okay.
what? What you want your baby to come with a manual. This is a manual that will enable you to tune into your baby. And your baby's your mirror. Your baby's the manual that would help you, parents. But you need to observe. You need to look, listen, feel, build that relationship with your baby. Know what makes them tick. And you're not doing alone. We will journey with you. So that is what nursing and midwifery brings. It grows you in ways that you'd never know. The
Mhm.
diversity within the profession. Take
Yes.
your pick. you
Yes.
know and this year has been one of education, because the only nurse I have not seen so far is a nurse that's nursing on a spaceship. Cruise ship nursing, flight nursing,
Yeah,
military,
everywhere, everywhere.
military nursing. However you can nurse, there's a nursing in that
There
field.
isn't any profession, industry, or anything else where nurses aren't.
You want to fly, see the world, you
We're
can
there,
nurse as
we're
you
there,
fly and
we're
travel.
there.
So that is what nursing gives. It's a gift, I find, and I have loved it. I often always want to improve that. Look, how can you make it better, Ruth? How can you make it better? And that's why we need those we serve to tell us, you know what? This, you could have done it better this way, and that's why we listen. We co-design services with them, we co-produce services with them, and we ask for feedback. Are we meeting your needs? And one of the times I learned that most was when I worked with young people. I said, oh, let them shape the service, and goodness, they were so critical.
They're so
They were so critical. I was like, oh my god, what have I done? Oh, you nurses, you're this, you're that, you're that. Okay, we hear you. How can we make it better? How can we make it more accessible? And we had to listen and keep checking.
and yeah,
Keep
yeah.
checking. Look, this is what you said you wanted. Are we delivering? You're doing well, but you could do better. So it was lovely, but it was
Yeah,
we got to shape the service with them, co-produce the service with them. And honestly, it became a better service as a result. Yes, because they led it too. We made sure they led it on our council. They had decision-making powers.
yeah,
When we were
yeah.
interviewing nurses and substance misuse workers, well, we call them health and well-being workers. Um, they interviewed them. Nah, we don't like him. He
Don't
doesn't
like
fit
that
it. And it's just they were the ones hiring, because
one.
they had to. Whoever we recruited had to work with them, and if there was no match, then sorry, it just
That's
didn't
it.
happen.
It's not
Yeah.
going to work if there's no match.
Yes. So it's been a fabulous career. Still evolving, because it's not over yet. I'm
It
not hanging
always
the
will.
button.
It
Yes.
always will.
Yes.
Thank you so, so, so much. I so appreciate your time. I looked forward to this for quite a while. So it was
It,
really great to speak to you, and I wish you continued success in all that you do, because you do so much.
it's a pleasure. It's like fuel, there's a need, it just drives you, you fill up, and then you create. It's just so beautiful, and I feel so honored and privileged to be a nurse. And now I could tell my dad, you know what? I'm not just a nurse. I told you, I'm not just a nurse. I'm good at what I do. I love what I
You're
do.
good
I've
at
got
what
to
you do.
show you. So,
And
thank
that is the
you.
all important thing, to love
Yeah.
what you do
Uh, Two things: love what you do and do what you love.
and do what you love. Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
that's what nursing and midwifery and health visiting has done for me. When people say, "Are you a nurse?" I always respond, "I'm a nurse and a midwife and a health visitor." I worked hard for all three, and I'm going to
Yes.
work hard to retain all three, but
Mhm.
also make a difference to those I serve. Yes. Thank,
Blessings, Ruth. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay.